Hello, podcast fans. Spring is here for most of us. We are getting out to enjoy it, and many are considering how to thoughtfully take care of our beautiful planet. In April, you can do all of this. Let's get down to earth.
If you can't choose just one winery, this is a chance to get out and visit as many as you can fit in a day or in a weekend, and it will just be a beautiful time of year to be out in the vineyards as well.
This spot was an early enclave for French winemakers, and then that Zinfandel block with the field blend was also an early kind of reflection of the Italian heritage of the area. So we've got a lot of history going on here.
We pay them to ride share, and we've recently almost doubled what we pay. So people can make several $100s a month. I feel good about it because we're taking cars off the road.
Each year, California Wines presents Down to Earth Month. And if you can, while you're listening to this podcast, you might want to pull up discovercaliforniawines.com and follow along. Aside from touching upon this Wine Institute celebration and some of the events that are planned, I'll dive deeper with Lasseter Family Winery to share details of their April event, organic farming, and their wines. And you'll hear about the many programs Napa Valley's Castello de Amorosa has adopted to lessen their impact on the earth as I speak with owner Dario Suttui later in this podcast. I'll start with my annual conversation with Allison Jordan of the Wine Institute, the executive director of the California Sustainable Wine Growing Alliance and vice president of environmental affairs for the Wine Institute. Allison, thank you for joining me as we talk about the 11th anniversary of California Wine's Down to Earth Month.
It's so great to be with you, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Once again, dozens of wineries are getting together to celebrate California's global leadership in sustainable wine growing by offering some special fun, educational activities.
Right. It's really a chance to celebrate California's global leadership in sustainable wine growing. And all of your listeners can check out sustainable winery activities that include things like sustainable wine and food tastings and passport weekends. There are even hikes and events, vineyard tours, etc. And all of this is happening throughout the month of April.
I have mentioned the fact in the past that California is the fourth largest wine producing region in the world. And the California wine industry has the most comprehensive and widely adopted sustainability certification programs, and that says a lot.
That's right. I always like to think of wine as a sustainable product of choice, but we really are leading the way here in California. And now 80% of all of California wine is made in a certified California sustainable winery. That's 255 million cases being produced in a certified sustainable winery.
And in your position over the years, you've probably noticed quite a growth in sustainable farming, and more so probably over the last 5 years.
That's right. Yes. I mean, it's really been remarkable to see the level of discourse and understanding of sustainability really increase so dramatically, but also participation in educational programs as well as certification programs. Even just our program, the Certified California Sustainable Wine Growing Program, has had a growth of 154% in the number of sustainable wine vineyards and about 50% increase in the number of certified wineries.
And we should provide a nod to Carissa Cruz of the Sonoma County Wine Growers Association for challenging the vineyard owners to be 100% sustainable by 2019. And they came awfully darn close of not having met that goal by now.
Yeah, I think they got very, very close to 100%, and it was a really bold, audacious goal. So really exciting that they were able to find a way to get there. And I've talked to so many growers who maybe weren't as excited about getting certified at first, but really do find value in taking that holistic approach and understanding, what practices are needed, but also what they can consider and set their own priorities and really drive continuous improvement.
And these days, consumers are looking for wines that are made sustainably. In case you can't find them, those who are listening, make sure you look for that California Certified Sustainable logo on the bottles. And you can also visit discovercaliforniawines.com to look for sustainable wines.
Those are really great places to find it. You can also ask wineries while you're visiting or look at their websites. We also have a new searchable database on CaliforniaSustainableWine.com where you can look for certified vineyards wineries and wines and plan a tour. So those are some really great resources if you're looking for sustainably produced wine.
Well, let's jump into some of the events that are happening during Down to Earth Month. And I've said it before, but I really like your interactive map at discovercaliforniawines.com that shows the events throughout the state. But let's focus on the events that are occurring up here in NorCal. And I'll start off with Six Sigma Ranch up in Lake County. Then we'll come down to Sonoma and Napa. On April 9th, 16th, and 23rd, they'll be participating in the guided hikes in sustainable vineyards with wine tastings. I really enjoyed my experience up there, and I think a hike in the area will be good for the soul.
It is so beautiful. They have done such a great job, not only with their vineyard practices, but also that expansive acreage that they own, and the land conservation and involvement they have in the community is just remarkable. And there's some other hikes. I love the hikes because you get out there in nature. You really get to see the practices on the ground. Mm-hmm. And of course, all while enjoying wine. So a couple of others in the Sonoma region are at Benziger Family Winery. I think people know about their tram tours, but this is a chance to get out on that beautiful property and to really see it firsthand. So on April 23rd.
Yeah, you can see their sheep on that tour, and if they still have them, I imagine they do.
They do, and also they have a really cool insectary and a way to learn about not only sustainable practices, but they are also big promoters of biodynamic growing as well.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And Alexander Valley Vineyards up north of Healdsburg, they've always been into offering hikes around their property, but they're certainly promoting this this month from April 1st through the 30th.
Yes, and I just love the Alexander Valley. It's such a beautiful ride. So imagine getting out of your car and out of the tasting room and really enjoying the landscape. It's a really great opportunity.
There are a number of tours, too, sustainable wines and vines tours being offered by cake bread sellers in Napa Valley, and they're doing that all month long, as well as an eco tour and tasting experience at Honig Vineyard and Winery in Napa Valley, if you want to venture over to the other side of the Mayacamas.
Yes, both really wonderful families and wineries, and you really, at Cake Bread, you can see their garden, which is a fantastic part of their property. And also the Honig family, they're right up against the Napa River, and being able to go out and do an eco tour and taste both their wines, and I'm sure they'll have some of their fun things to do while you're visiting Honig Vineyard and Winery.
It's good to see these events coming back, isn't it?
It is. Oh, my goodness. I mean, I think the industry has done a remarkable job with some of the new virtual events and having access to people you might not otherwise, and lots of entertaining and educational opportunities, but just being in person and really smelling things and feeling things, and there's just nothing like it. I'm so excited to get back out.
And with the spring weather, you might want to take a road trip and not just stay in Sonoma County, listeners. As a matter of fact, on April 21st through 23rd, I'm going to be heading down to that Hospice du Rhone celebration, celebrating Rhone wines in Paso Robles.
Oh, that sounds like fun, too. It is that town square and all of the great places to dine and visit and tasting rooms. It's just a really fun place to be.
Yeah, I haven't been down there in such a long time, so I'm looking forward to that. But one of the places I have been to a number of times in the last few years is the El Dorado area. And there's an El Dorado Passport weekend called Get Out There. 25 wineries are participating in that in the Sierra Foothills, the 22nd through 24th.
Yes, I always think of that as being sort of the gateway to so many wonderful places to visit in our state. And so it's just a place that you can spend a whole weekend, or make sure when you're driving to the mountains, you can stop on your way there, on the way back. It's just a beautiful wine region.
Mm-hmm. And, a place many people may not consider is the Santa Cruz Mountains, and there's a passport weekend there on April 24th as well. 40 wineries in the Santa Cruz Mountains will be part of the Santa Cruz Mountains Grand Tasting.
Right, and I feel like we think of that area as being so populated, but just around the corner you can get away from it all. And the Santa Cruz has so many wonderful wineries, and here's a chance to really go out and experience a number of them.
And some fun events. I've been up to Barra of Mendocino not too long ago, and really impressed with the wines that they're making, a great variety of wines, and a really interesting tasting space as well. And coming up on April 23rd, they have Wags and Wines food and wine event that will benefit the Humane Society at Barra of Mendocino.
Yes, I think sustainability is also part of what we do for the community, and so many wineries are involved in volunteerism or contributing wine or making donations to various organizations. So this is a great example of where you can feel really good about going out and experience a wonderful day, but at the same time, it's benefiting an important organization.
Yeah, that's April 23rd. They're in Redwood Valley, so just a little bit north of Ukiah, but certainly worth the drive. Take my word for that. Also on the 23rd, there's several things actually going on the 23rd. Korbel is doing a Celebrate Earth Day event with music, and it's also a self-guided tour.
And again, you probably can make a whole weekend of that visiting the Russian River area. And Korbel just has a beautiful setting, so I can imagine with music and walking around the vineyards and the winery, it just sounds like a great day.
And they have such a history there. The self-guided tour must be interesting because you can take your time and just see some of the old inventive things that they came up with over the years and hear about the Korbel brothers who were there on that property for a long time before they got popular with their champagne.
Yeah, their history is amazing, really.
And Deloche Vineyards is doing an Earth Day celebration, a guided garden tour and dinner on April 23rd.
Yes. So again, I think people forget there's so many beautiful things about wineries, the architecture, but also the outdoor spaces. So many of them do have gardens that they incorporate into their food programs. And so here's a chance to really have that sustainable food and wine pairing.
And the next day, Napa is going to be celebrating with the Earth Day Napa Festival, featuring some sustainable wines and earth-friendly vendors, too, and live entertainment. So that sounds like quite a blast.
It does. So you can find out about these events and so many more at discovercaliforniawines.com, and it will tell you everything you need to know to be able to take part in these really fun and educational activities.
Look for the interactive map on discovercaliforniawines.com. You can zoom in into any wine region and see the events that may or may not be happening in that area. You can click on the event and get all the details, or look off to the right and you can choose a wine region and see the listing of the events occurring in that region.
That's right.
Allison Jordan, thank you so much for taking time to discuss the 11th annual Down to Earth Month. And she's a busy gal. She's the executive director of the California Sustainable Wine Growing Alliance and vice president of environmental affairs for the Wine Institute.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone is able to get out there to enjoy Down to Earth Month.
Last weekend, I featured one of the wineries who are participating on my radio show, Lasseter Family Winery in Glen Ellen, Sonoma County. And I sat with their vice president of marketing and sales, Jenifer Freebairn, and winemaker Danielle Langlois. She'll talk about Lasseter's wine in a moment. I started with Jenifer, and for Down to Earth Month, Lasseter Family Winery is offering a vineyard tour and tasting. It's available 10:30 to noon on weekdays, which may eventually be extended to weekends once things start opening up a little more. As I mentioned, it's available 10:30 to noon, but how long does a tour take, Jenifer?
It takes a couple hours, depends on how long you linger on the patio at the end when you do the tasting.
And why don't you tell us what the guests can expect when they do the tour and tasting?
Yes. So we are 38 acres here in Sonoma Valley of organically grown fruit and Rhone and Bordeaux varieties primarily, but also some ancient Zinfandel vines and a field blend. So you'll have a nice immersive exploration of the property, and we'll talk about the farming and show some interesting characteristics about the vines and how we do what we do. And water conservation is also a huge part of how we manage our vineyards. The Lasseters are truly in this for the long haul. They want to leave this land better than we found it. It's a big, big commitment. So we have a lot of fun just learning about the vineyard and walking and riding the club cart through it and stepping out into the vineyard and enjoying that. And then we eventually wind back to the patio here, which has been a wonderful addition as we've been able to open up and still be outside and be, have a lot of space. And it's shaded and also heated, so it's really wonderful. And so then people will enjoy a tasting of 5 wines. They will have already had some rosé when they're on the tour, and maybe a cheese plate if they'd like. And they'll hear a lot about the winemaking and everything that we do in the cellar.
Excellent. Sounds like a beautiful place.
It's pretty lovely. I can vouch for that.
I was not surprised, but had not heard that the property here where Lasseter sits today was owned by a Frenchman who was making wine back like in 1894.
Yes. This spot was an early enclave for French winemakers, and then that Zinfandel block with the field blend was also an early kind of reflection of the Italian heritage of the area. So we've got a lot of history going on here, and I can tell you that the Lasseters have painstakingly restored this vineyard, which was in great disarray, but obviously of huge historical importance, so it's really wonderful what's been done.
And that heritage meshed perfectly with John and Nancy's love of French wines and the old world approach to winemaking, which I was reading about. And they acquired the property about 2002?
Yep. And they had first established their homestead here. They fell in love with this area when they were living in Southern California and coming up here for weekend getaways. And they really, after falling in love with each other, then this became their sort of getaway, so they fell in love with the area, and they established their home. They've raised 5 sons who are now fully grown, so they really dug into this place, and then this property just serendipitously became available, and so they've developed it over time.
I saw that they were home winemakers for a while. When they first moved up to Sonoma in the 90s, they met people who were making wine and thought they'd give it a shot, and that's how it all started, huh?
Yep, it was a casual thing. They obviously were immersed in wine with their neighbors, and they fell in love with, I think, some Malbec, actually, from California, which was an interesting thing. And then they visited southern France, and really the area of the southern Rhone and Châteauneuf-du-Pape just absolutely captivated them in every way. So not only the style of wine, which they really enjoyed, but then all of the labels here are, each one is a commissioned painting every time we have a new wine by an artist, Denis Zeminski. And many of these wines tell the story of those travels and all of the sort of enchantment that they felt when they first fell in love with wine.
Yes, thanks for bringing the sheets that show these labels there. They're really colorful, and I love that style, kind of an early 1900s Parisian poster style.
Yep, they love that.
Now we're going to talk with Danielle Langlois, who is the winemaker at Lasseter, and we've been discussing Discover California Wines Down to Earth Month. But let's talk about the wines now at Lasseter. The owners, John and Nancy Lasseter, are both fans of Bordeaux and Rhone varietals, aren't they?
That's correct, yes. They fell in love with wine through their travels through France. And so here we kind of try and emulate those great blends that they've tasted abroad, of course, with our own California flair. So we have 4 different Bordeaux varietals that we grow on the property: Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, Malbec, and Merlot. And we make varietal-specific wines for the Merlot, the Malbec, and the Cabernet Sauvignon. And then we also have Rhone varietals on the property: Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and also some Counoise. And the Counoise goes into our rosé specifically.
A rosé of Counoise. Huh?
Well, it's a Grenache, Mourvèdre, Syrah, and Counoise rosé.
A little bit of that in there as well. I love Rhone varietals, and who doesn't love Bordeaux varietals? At least some aspect of them. So I'm going to have to get over there very soon, and I can't believe I haven't been to Lasseter yet by now.
Oh, you have to come. Lots of interesting things happening there. We were previously working with a consultant, Philippe Cambi, who sadly passed late last year, but he brought such a fresh perspective on how to produce these amazing wines, Rhone varietals, and just a different way of looking at how to really coax the best out of these grapes. And it's really turned into 3 beautiful blends that we offer. One is our Chemin de Fer, which is kind of our California Rhone blend, which is big and fruity and just really delicious. And then we have our Dentelle de Fer, which is a little on the lighter side, and we try and do a lot of whole cluster inclusion in that. And then we also have our third, which is in a Tendu, which is mainly Syrah based. So lots of different choices.
Now, people who speak French are probably seeing these words in their head, but I wanted to point out that the Dentelle de Fer, it's DE space FER.
Correct.
And what does of fer mean?
It means of iron. So the Chemin de Fer is translated as Iron Road, which is it's a representation of the railroad that we actually have on the property. John keeps a 3 miles worth of railroad and a steam engine on property that sometimes he'll fire up and let us ride, which is really exciting.
Wow.
And then the Dentelle de Fer is translated as iron lace, because the wine is very intricate, very delicate, but still has so much strength. And then Inattendu, our third label, means unexpected. because we ended up planting more Syrah than we thought on the property, and it's producing well and just absolutely beautiful. So it's our unexpected delight.
Yeah, you weren't expecting to bottle that as a single varietal.
Exactly.
That's funny. So you mentioned a minute ago that some of these are big, bold GSMs and such, but as we mentioned earlier, and as I read, the Lasseters are fond of kind of the more restrained European style of wine. So when you say it's big, are you talking about the European style or American style?
Well, I mean, I think we have to be authentic to the land. I think we get inspiration from the French, and we certainly fell in love with their varietals and the way that they blend the wines in order to really put forth the varietal that we're showcasing in one of the wines. But we live in California, and the weather and the terroir is different, and we have to be true to the earth and what we're representing here, and take what the vines give you, and really they give us some gorgeous, beautiful wines here on this property. So they are going to be a little bit bigger than from France, but that's because we have way more sunshine.
Right.
And a little bit more heat, I think.
Yeah. Tell me about the white wines.
So we actually have a rosé. That's our Rhone style, Grenache, Mourvedre, Syrah, and Cunoise, and that is done cold press in stainless steel. And then we also have our Voila, which is a Bordeaux style because it's usually around 60-40, 50-50 Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Which is a great Bordeaux blend, a little bit more serious, but yet just really delicious and fruity. Some people have told me it's like pineapple upside down cake. So,
wow, I like that.
Yeah, we actually have 2 more whites. So we have new in 2020 is our first vintage of Trinity Ridge, which is our property up on Moon Mountain. So we have that Sauvignon Blanc and Sauvignon Blanc Musqué clone. And then we also have our Zut Alors, and our Zut Alors is Sauvignon Blanc by itself, and it's kind of done in a little bit more of a lighter style, a little bit more crisp.
And you have a Cabernet and Syrah from Trinity Ridge as well.
Absolutely. So as we do blends down here on our main property, but the property up at Trinity Ridge, the Cabernet that we were tasting and the Syrah that we were tasting up there, when we were tasting with John and Nancy, they were just too beautiful on their own. So we really just wanted to showcase them on their own. So we do, a Cabernet Sauvignon and a Syrah from our Moon Mountain property.
Yeah,
Trinity
Moon Mountain
Ridge.
is just such an incredible property and region.
You can actually see it from the tasting area. So when you come and visit us, we can show you up at the very top of the mountain. You can see the vineyard from it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. I've had a chance to go up there and wander around a little bit. And I actually did an interview up there one time. And it's beautiful.
Gorgeous. Personally, my background in environmental science and environmental chemistry really lined up with the vision of the Lasseters and, how they're really stewards of the land here. They want to leave it better than they found it, and the organic farming by Phil Katuri is just, it's really amazing. We have so many things to implement, the natural success of a vineyard, like we have insectuaries on the property, which are basically beautiful flowers that attract proper insects like bees and ladybugs. We have dual irrigation systems, so we don't use a lot of water. And we have bird boxes and owl boxes in the vineyard so that we can keep those varmints at bay. And it's just a really beautiful place to work. And you're making good wine and, being a friend to the earth at the same time.
That's great. So if you're looking for something to do in April, visit discovercaliforniawines.com. Scroll down to April is Earth Month and look for the events offered with the interactive map. And you will see there the vineyard tour and tasting that's being offered at Lasseter.
Yeah, it's a wonderful time. What better way to reopen and get out than to be in the vineyard? We know everybody's looking to be outside. It's absolutely beautiful, and so we encourage it, and we start in the morning, so you have a nice cool morning, and then as the afternoon warms up, it's just a beautiful experience, and we hope that people will come and enjoy it.
Go to LasseterFamilyWinery.com. That's 2 S's and 1 T in Lasseter.
Thanks, ladies, for joining me.
Thank you, Jeff. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
I'll take a short break, then we'll move from a French-inspired property to an Italian-themed structure. Castello di Amorosa, when my travels on the wine road continue.
The historic Mount View Hotel and Spa is a 33-room, family-owned boutique hotel located in the heart of downtown Calistoga, California. This distinctive hotel features original architectural elements complemented by Art Deco interiors. Welcoming amenities include 2 restaurants, Amaro Italian Kitchen and Johnny's, a full-service luxury spa, the Indy Blue Salon, a beautiful pool, Mineral Springs Jet Spa, lounge areas, and this summer, a safe, enjoyable outdoor movie venue, the Moonshine Theater. A stay at the Mount View Hotel and Spa is not only enriching for the soul, you can change the world while you sleep. Their Change the World While You Sleep program contributed 50% of their profits to children, health, women's, and environmental causes. Currently, the Mount View is hosting dinner and a movie fundraising events to support local nonprofits. For the schedule of movies and more information on Wine Country's most unique hotel and spa, visit mountviewhotel.com.
We're back on the wine road, which is now taking me to Castello di Amorosa in Napa Valley, south of Calistoga, as I continue with interviews related to Down to Earth Month, celebrating the events occurring across the state in honor of Earth Day, which is Friday of next week. And I wanted to touch upon what owner Dario Suttui has been doing to reduce their usage of energy, water, and carbon dioxide. When I met up with Dario a couple of weeks ago, he was a bit under the weather, but wanted to keep our appointment, which is good because I wanted to share the news that Castello di Amorosa has recently invested $1.4 million in a 400-kilowatt solar and battery microgrid. The massive 1,232-panel solar system was completed this January and is situated on a slope that was significantly burned in the glass fire that hit Napa Valley in 2020. I commended him on that undertaking.
I was in a quandary as to what to do because, I have a 14th century castle and solar panels, they don't mix. So we tried to hide them the best we could on the hillside that burned. And but I feel really good about it because it's going to generate at least half the power for the winery, including production. And it'll significantly reduce our PG&E bill, so we'll leave less of a carbon footprint, and so I feel really good about that.
I saw it could be upwards of 80% energy saved.
Well, and it may be. I was told months and months ago it was around 50%, but I know Jim Sullivan says it's up to 80%, so maybe that's correct. Here's another thing I've done, Jeff. There's a firm in Santa Rosa called Resynergy, and it's right next to the recycling plant in South Santa Rosa. And what they do, they collect discarded plastic. They get most of it from the recycling company. They're right next door. And then they, with a machine they use, they convert it into energy, fuel. They can convert it into renewable plastic. And I feel really good about this. I invested about $500,000 of my own money, but I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution.
I think that's fantastic because plastic is such a problem.
The ocean's full of plastic, full of garbage. Apparently there's a size of a landmass as big as Texas in the Pacific Ocean, which is about 1.5 times the size of California. That is just full of garbage. And one of the contributors to Resynergy is a lady named Mary Crowley from Marin, and she takes stuff out of the ocean, gives it to Resynergy, and we convert it into fuel or renewable plastic.
He's Dario Suttui of Castello di Amorosa, located between Calistoga and St. Helena. Another program they implemented that he's proud to mention is they pay employees to participate in a rideshare program.
A lot of the employees we have, and we have about 130, 140, live in Lake County, live in Santa Rosa, live in Fairfield or American Canyon. And so we pay them to ride share, or if they take the bus or a bicycle. And we've recently almost doubled what we pay. So people can make several $100s a month, especially if they take a couple of people in their car. And a lot of people live in virtually the same areas. So it's really working. We're paying out significant money, but I feel good about it because we're taking cars off the road. And this allows the drivers to really lessen their expenses for gas, for insurance, so forth. So it's a good thing to do.
I remember a few years ago they did a study on Highway 29 because they were concerned about all the tourism, and they were checking people who were driving, and they determined that most of the drivers on the road were single locals driving to work.
You go anywhere in the Bay Area, and I imagine the United States, and virtually, I'd say 70-80% of the cars have just one person in them.
You know, getting back to your solar array, I love the idea that you're reducing your carbon footprint by utilizing the space that was burned by the glass fire. I mean, there's a sweet, ironic twist occurring there.
Yeah, and here's another thing we've done. We had a building that burned in late September 2020, and not the castle proper, but a detached building about 9,000 square feet. We lost over 100,000 bottles of wine, often our best wine. We lost a bottling line, a truck, a forklift, virtually all the offices, a wine laboratory, and part of the 2020 vintage. But what I wanted to say was that because of that fire, we organized our own fire department. And they've been trained, they have uniforms. We now have 2 workable fire pumps. We have a little lake above the castle, and we can pump water out of that. So we're really organized. I think we were somewhat complacent before. Much of the fault goes to us. But now we're really organized, and we've also spent more than $100,000 taking out undergrowth, old trees, dead trees, fallen trees. So I think we're in pretty good shape for the next fire.
That's good of you to do all of that and keep that in mind. You're certainly helping yourself in the future, aren't you?
Yeah.
Over the years, they've received some jabs suggesting that the castle is a sort of adult Disneyland. Well, for one, who doesn't like amusement parks? And there is nothing fabricated about Castello di Amorosa. It is a true to design and build of a 14th century Italian castle with some French influence. If you're a history buff, it's well worth seeing. And good for Dario and his team for trying to protect the environment. He recently signed a conservation easement with the Anderson Valley Land Trust for the 77-acre Denison Ranch. Other than the existing home on the ranch, the land will be protected and preserved by the trust. There are 3 other legal home sites on the property, but this trust ensures they will never be built upon.
In the past, even 30 or more years ago, I've started putting land into the land trust. I'm not a slow growth guy. I'm a no growth guy. And the more I see the population of Napa County and Sonoma County as well grow, the more it saddens me because often vineyards are taken out to put in somebody's $1 zillion house or a house, and it just saddens me. I just wonder about the future of agriculture in Napa County, Sonoma County, and agriculture is the prime industry at Napa County. It's the last Bay Area county of all 9 counties to have agriculture being the prime industry. In the 60s, the Santa Clara Valley became asphalt and apartment buildings and factories when it was great farmland. And the same thing happened over in the East Bay, Livermore area. And they used to make great wines over there, but now there's very few vineyards and wineries. So I don't want to be part of the problem again. Over the years, we've contributed almost 700 acres, mainly in Napa County, but in this new one in Mendocino County, at Anderson Valley, to the land trust, which means it'll never be built upon. And at the Denison Ranch in particular, we had the right to build 3 other houses. There was already an existing house on it. I'm not going to tear it down. And we actually use it for farm labor, people out of Mexico. And they stay there about 6 months and then go. And then I had the right to build 3 other homes. And so I gave up that right. I feel good about that. And so we're approaching 700 acres that we put in the land trust. And there's a couple more properties we have. We usually do one a year. And so we will probably put those into the land trust as well.
That's impressive. But you do have vineyards on some of that property, right?
Yes. At Denison Ranch, again, 77.5 acres, we'll end up with about 49 acres of vineyard. But vineyards are beautiful too. It sure beats asphalt and homes and swimming pools and tennis courts.
You also bought that famous Morning Dew Pinot Noir vineyard a while back, didn't you?
We bought that from, I think his name was William Salem. It was a very famous vineyard. We now have 3 vineyards in Anderson Valley. Anderson Valley is probably like Napa Valley was in the 1930s, maybe the 40s. It's really bucolic. It's underdeveloped. I've seen tremendous changes in Napa County. Some for the better. Yeah, we have better restaurants now. We have more amenities, golf courses, hotels, things to do. But it saddens me. You probably should be careful what I'm saying. There's a lot more traffic, a lot more population, and maybe in a way I preferred it then. And we also have a vineyard near Sebastopol in Sonoma County, really good Pinot Noir. It's called Cresta d'Oro, which means gold ridge, and that's the soil there, which is the best soil for Pinot Noir. So we're actually in 4 counties between Suttui Winery and Castello de Amorosa. We're also in Solano County. We have a vineyard there as well.
You know, it didn't get past me that when you said you're a no-growth guy, and we're sitting here in this huge monstrosity of a castle that you built. So I guess you did this, and then you thought, okay, that's enough building.
Yeah, first of all, when I bought this property, I had no intention of building the castle. I love the house. It's 3-story, old Victorian. It's about 140 years old. We have a little lake, as I said. We have 171 acres, a lot of forest. Much of it burned down now. We have a part-time stream. We have history. There was a guy named Colonel William Nash who came out from Tennessee a year before gold was discovered. He came out in 1847, and he built one of the first houses in Napa County, and I love history. It was one of the first 15 houses built. He also established the first schoolhouse in Napa County on this property. So I love all that. And he was already famous because Nashville, Tennessee is named after his grandfather, who was a Revolutionary War hero. So it had all the elements. But I inherited this great building permit, which I gave zero value to. I was going to, Suttui Winery was doing well. I was in my early 50s. I was going to live in Europe half-time, here half-time, and I didn't want another winery. But I also love medieval architecture. And so after some months, I decided, well, with this great building permit, I'll build an 8,500 square foot building in the medieval Tuscan style. And it ended up morphing 15 years later into over 150,000 square feet. about 3.5 acres of rooms, 107 different rooms, all of them different. All the ideas I got in Europe, basically in Tuscany, Umbria, but also in France. And so I built a winery. We sell all our wines direct from Castello di Amorosa, just like Suttui does, and we make Italian-style wines here. So to get back to your point, yeah, I'm a no-growth guy, and yet we're the second most popular winery in California, Suttui being the first. But here's my way of looking at things. Let people come up, enjoy the beauty, enjoy the vineyards, taste the wines. Hopefully they have a good time. Hopefully they buy some wine and have a good experience. Go back and tell their friends. But don't move here. That's what I'm against.
Thank you for coming. Have a good trip home.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get ostracized for that. But that's my feeling. So again, I'm for no growth.
Well, for a guy who, when you first built Suttui, when we discussed your 40th anniversary a few years ago, you were telling me about how your first few weeks of opening, you were using a cigar box as your cash register.
No, not only for a few weeks, but for several years. I started Suttui Winery. I'd saved up $5,000. My mother gave me $3,000, so I had $8,000. I tried to raise $100,000. I couldn't do that. I ended up getting $62,500, including my $8,000. I was living in my van. I was determined to restart my great-grandfather's winery, which was called Suttui Winery. And of course, I gave it the same name. His name was Vittorio. And I went through so much. I couldn't afford a cash register. I didn't own any property. I leased the property. I didn't own any vineyard. I rented all my winery equipment from a home winemaking store in St. Helena. It's now gone, but I didn't have anything. I was just trying to make it to the end of the year. And actually, we made a small profit, I remember exactly, $2,470 the first year we started, which was 76, when we opened to the public. Anyway, so I'm somewhat proud of what I did.
And you just turned 80 years old recently.
Yeah,
I
turned 80 years old, and I'm still working. And so I want to start slowing down. I am going to Europe in a couple of weeks, and I've got to change this because I don't want to die at my desk, put it that way.
Well, you mentioned something when we first sat down. Remember what it was about? If you knew ahead of time, you wouldn't have worked so hard.
Yeah, if I knew ahead of time how old I was going to be, I would have taken better care of myself. And in fact, this is the first time I've been old, so I didn't know what to expect.
Well, you've done a remarkable job in your life, and I imagine your great-grandfather is smiling big.
Thank you.
Scientists talk about extending the lives of humans well into the 100s. If that becomes reality, yeah, you'll probably have to take care of yourself when you're younger. He's Dario Suttui. If you want to see the world of Castello di Amorosa, visit castellodiamorosa.com. It's pretty much spelled like it sounds, or do a search and you'll find it. And aside from April being Down to Earth Month, with celebrations across the state honoring sustainable practices, April is also Sonoma County Wine Month. Wineries are celebrating with a multitude of entertaining and educational experiences. You can choose from vineyard hikes focused on sustainable agriculture, wine pairings with cooking classes, and art gallery tours. Some wineries have scheduled events featuring live music, food trucks, library tastings, and brunch in the vineyard. If you're listening outside of Sonoma County and can't make it here in April, there are many options for you to participate at home. Virtual happy hours, cooking demonstrations, and wine tasting experiences are continuing. Also, new wine releases, shipping offers, and Wine for Good offers with proceeds benefiting nonprofits are all available on participating winery websites. For all the details, visit sonomawine.com/wine month. Thanks for listening today, and I hope you enjoy this spring season. Find more interviews and wine trivia at onthewineroad.us or .com. I'm on Facebook /onthewineroad. Go ahead and follow the page if you would. And I'm on Instagram as JD Wine Road. The show's theme was composed by Miguel de Oliveira and is researched, written, and produced by me. And I thank you for listening. I'll see you next time on The Wine Road. I'm Jeff Davis.